I'm gonna say like 5 miles of blood vessels.
I'd say way more than 5. Somewhere in the hundreds, probably.
No, actually, I think it's more. Actually, I think it's maybe 3,000 miles.
Well, it's a bit more than that. Never mind the big ones. Most of our blood vessels look like this. These are capillaries, which are just 1/20th the thickness of a human hair. Added up, there are an incredible 40 billion of them inside us, carrying blood to the furthest reaches of our body. That whopping number helps push up the distance of blood vessels in our body to a mind-boggling 62,000 miles. To put that in perspective, your blood vessels, spread out, would stretch around the world 2.5 times.
Well, one of the things that's amazing about the heart, as opposed to many other pumps, is that it all fits into this little 2-fist-sized device. And in a transplant, and with no blood supply, no oxygen, that thing can still organize itself into a collection of cells that coordinates and beats rhythmically.
But if the distance our heart has to pump blood around the body sounds incredible, then what about the volume of blood it has to shift? Imagine the blood in your body was paint. How long do you think it would take your heart to pump enough to paint this entire ship? A month? A year? A lifetime? Incredible as it seems, your heart pumps enough liquid every day to paint this entire ship twice over. In fact, the average heart pumps a whopping 2,113 gallons a day. Over a year, that would amount to 771,382 gallons of blood. Enough to give this ship 730 coats of paint. It might sound like a ridiculous amount, but if our heart didn't pump all those gallons, our bodies wouldn't function at all. We're less than halfway through our pregnancy. But believe it or not, we're already able to detect the world outside the womb. And what we begin to take in will change our lives forever.
You've come for your 20-week scan just now, yeah? And do you understand?
By the time of our 20-week scan, we're halfway through our time in the womb. But we're still relatively small, just 6¼ inches in length. However, as with our 20-week-old here, extraordinary transformations are taking place almost continuously in that cozy little space.
Well, this baby looks absolutely lovely, and certainly this baby looks exactly as it should be at this stage of pregnancy.
250,000 new brain cells are being created every minute. By now, we have fingerprints.
See how fat this little baby's getting.
And in the last 2 months, our weight has increased by a factor of 16.
And that's where most of that comes from, this baby's.
That's the equivalent of someone gaining over 2,000 pounds, the weight of a large polar bear, in just 8 weeks. The 20-week scan is also the first time the genitals can be seen, and the parents can find out whether our fetus will be a boy or a girl.
Would you like to know the sex of the baby?
Not that they necessarily want to know. Our sex is one of the fundamental defining factors in determining our identity. But it's not as clear-cut as you might think. In fact, strip any macho hunk bare, and you'll reveal some very female features. Not convinced? Well, have you ever asked yourself what men's nipples are for?
I have often asked myself that question.
Well, I guess it depends on who you're at, well, what are my nipples for?
Well, we both said right away to bite, but...
I mean, it feels good when you touch them. Well, not when I touch them. I get like a weird sense of doom when I touch my own nipples.
It lets air into the chest.
Just for the air to go out? I don't know.
Maybe it's just biological economy. Rather than make two separate, really totally divergent bodies, they just said, well, just give them both nipples.
Our sex is determined by the information carried in our father's sperm. But it takes a while to kick in. In fact, for the first 6 weeks of life, every boy is developing as a girl. It's only after 6 weeks that the production of testosterone stops the development of female organs and starts the development of male ones. That means even the butchest man in town won't be able to shed all his feminine traits.
But both little hips.
The baby developing in this woman's womb will turn out to be female, and she's already reacting to the world around her. After 17 weeks, our fetus will be able to feel its surroundings and taste the mother's amniotic fluid. And by 20 weeks, it'll be aware of the sound of the mother's heartbeat and the blood moving in the umbilical cord. And these are only the first of the millions of sounds we'll be able to hear and interpret every single day of our lives.
We do know that it hears things quite early on, that it responds to pressure, it responds to sound, and it responds to vibrations. And that happens quite early. It's not something that just happens when the baby is born.
Our ability to distinguish one sound from another is perhaps one of our most amazing achievements, but not necessarily in the way we'd imagine. This is Ben Griffiths. He's one of the fastest drummers in the world, capable of striking 1,060 beats per minute. And it's pretty awesome as he reaches his crescendo. He's hitting that drum more than 17 times a second. It's a remarkable feat that demonstrates the body's speed and control. But nearly all of us can boast a set of bones that move far faster than this. In fact, his record-breaking achievements pale compared to what goes on inside our ear. These 3 bones, the smallest ones in your body, help convert sound waves into electrical signals in your brain. The smallest of them, the staples, or stirrup, is just 1/8 of an inch long. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in movement. Suspended on ligaments in the middle ear, they are vibrated by sound waves hitting the eardrum. These vibrations